Pick up a package of chicken breast. Look at the price per pound. Now understand something about how that number works. You are not paying for chicken. You are paying for weight, and those are not the same thing. Because somewhere between the farm and that styrofoam tray, something gets added to the meat. Something that costs the company almost nothing, weighs a great deal, and goes in before the package is weighed and priced. It's legal, it's disclosed, and it's printed on the front of the package in letters so small that almost nobody has ever noticed them. Here's what makes this different from every other label trick. There isn't one added ingredient. There are two. They happen at two completely different stages, and they stack. One of them is on nearly every conventional chicken in the store, including the ones that say 100% natural in big friendly letters. The other can be up to 15% of what you carry home. By the end, I'll show you both numbers, the exact words that reveal them, and a 10-second check that tells you how much of your chicken is actually chicken. But first, we have to talk about what happens in the 4 hours after a bird leaves the line, because that's where the first one gets in, and almost no shopper in America knows it's happening. Start with the rule that makes all of this profitable, because everything downstream comes from it. Chicken is sold by weight. Every pound is money. So anything that adds weight without adding cost is, from a business standpoint, free revenue. Water is the cheapest thing in the building. Hold that thought. Now, the 4 hours. By federal rule, after a bird is processed, it has to be chilled down to 40 degrees fast, within about 4 hours, to stop bacteria from growing. That's a genuine food safety requirement, and a good one. The question is how a plant gets there, and there are two ways. The expensive way is air chilling. Each bird hangs in a cold air chamber and cools individually. No shared water. It takes longer, it takes more space, and it costs more. The cheap, fast, dominant way in America is water immersion chilling. The birds go into a communal tank of cold, chlorinated water, a chill tank, and cool in roughly 50 minutes. It's efficient at industrial scale, which is why most of the chicken in your supermarket went through one. But muscle in cold water does what muscle in cold water always does. It absorbs. And that absorbed water doesn't fully leave. The USDA itself says that during water chilling, chickens and turkeys will take on some of that water, and that the amount has to be prominently declared on the label. Now here's the line from the USDA's own food safety page that should stop you cold. It is not unusual for poultry to declare 8 to 12% retained water on the label. 8 to 12%. That is water absorbed in a chill tank that you are buying at chicken prices on a package that says nothing but chicken breast in the big type. Compare that to air chilling. In a controlled study comparing the two methods, water-chilled carcasses gained about 5% of their pre-chill weight, while air-chilled carcasses actually lost around 1.5%. One process adds weight, the other loses it, and they sit next to each other in the same cooler at prices that don't reflect that difference at all. And here's the part you've already seen with your own eyes without knowing what you were looking at. That pink liquid pooling in the bottom of the tray, the stuff most people assume is blood and pour down the drain, a lot of that is the absorbed chill tank water slowly seeping back out of the muscle, tinted pink by proteins in the meat. It's not a sign of freshness. It's the water leaving. You bought it. You just paid for it, and then you poured it into the sink. So that's number one. And notice what it is. Water that got in by accident of process and that the law makes them declare. Now we get to the one that isn't an accident at all. Because a chicken can go through that chill tank, absorb its 8%, and then have something else deliberately pumped into it before it ever reaches the tray. This is the practice the industry calls enhancement. Shoppers who know about it call it plumping. Here's how it works. Raw chicken is injected with a solution, usually water, salt, and sodium phosphates, sometimes labeled as chicken broth or stock, sometimes with a seaweed-derived thickener like carrageenan to help the meat hold on to the liquid. The phosphates matter because they change the protein structure so the muscle grips the injected water and doesn't release it during cooking. The liquid goes in, and it stays in, through the package, through your fridge, and through the pan. How much? Commonly, up to 15% of the package weight, And this is not a fringe practice. The USDA has stated that roughly 30% of poultry, 15% of beef, and about 90% of pork are injected with some kind of liquid solution before sale. 90% of pork, 30% of poultry. Read that again, and then think about the last time anyone told you. Now do the arithmetic on your own grocery bill, because this is where it stops being trivia. If you buy a 7-pound enhanced chicken at 15% solution, roughly one of those pounds is not chicken. You paid the per-pound price for salt water. Estimates from consumer advocates put the extra cost at something like $1.70 per package, and across the country, in the neighborhood of $2 billion a year that American families spend on added weight. But money is only half of it. The other half is on the nutrition facts panel, and it's more dramatic than most people expect. Plain, untreated chicken is naturally low in sodium, generally somewhere around 45 to 70 milligrams per serving. A serving of plumped chicken can run from 200 to 500 milligrams. At the high end, that's a single serving of raw chicken carrying as much sodium as a large order of fast food fries before you've added a grain of salt yourself. And here's the twist that turned this into a genuine fight inside the industry, which is where the label part gets almost hard to believe. Under the rules as they've stood, chicken injected with a salt water solution could still be labeled natural or even 100% natural. The logic is technical. Water is natural, salt is natural. So a solution of water and salt doesn't disqualify the claim. So a bird that has been pumped with up to 15% added liquid can carry the same reassuring word as a bird that has had nothing done to it at all. This is not me editorializing. It split the poultry industry in public. A group called the Truthful Labeling Coalition formed specifically to push back on it, and Purdue, one of the country's largest poultry companies, publicly joined that effort, with a spokesman stating flatly that under no circumstances should poultry enhanced with water or broth or solutions be labeled natural. On the other side, other major processors argued the practice was disclosed on the package and that they were simply offering customers a choice, with company-sponsored research suggesting most consumers didn't object as long as the added ingredients were themselves natural. Surveys cited by consumer advocates found the opposite. Around 70% of shoppers believed chicken labeled natural should not contain added salt water. I'm giving you both sides because both sides are real, and because I want to be precise about what's actually happening here. Nobody is committing a crime. The solution is on the label. The percentage is on the label. This is not fraud. It's a disclosure that has been engineered to be technically complete and practically invisible, which is exactly this channel's whole subject. And regulators noticed. The USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service proposed tightening this, arguing that without specific, clear, conspicuous information about the percentage of added solution, the labeling is misleading. Under the approach they moved toward, the added solution has to be part of the product's actual name, right on the front panel, as a number with a percent sign. So a product isn't just chicken breast, it's chicken breast with the percentage spelled out. And notably, the agency declined to build the word enhanced into that name on the grounds that enhanced implies the product was improved by having the solution added. Even the regulator wouldn't let them call it an improvement. So now you know the two things: water absorbed in the chill tank and solution injected on purpose. Which brings up the obvious question. If it's all on the label, why has nobody you know ever mentioned it? Because of where it lives and how it's worded. And this is the part I want you to actually be able to use. So let's decode the package line by line. The phrase you're hunting for is a percentage. It shows up in a handful of forms, and they all mean the same category of thing. Contains up to 15% chicken broth, enhanced with up to 12% solution of water, salt, and sodium phosphate. Contains up to 15% water, salt, and sodium phosphates. Or, for the chill tank version, contains up to 8% retained water, or may contain up to 6% retained water. Different wording, same message. A percentage of what you're buying is not meat. Notice something about that wording too. Regulators actually studied which phrasing consumers understood best, and shoppers found contains up to 15% water, salt, and sodium phosphates the clearest, the version that names the ingredients plainly. Meanwhile, contains up to 15% chicken broth sounds almost like a feature. Broth sounds like cooking. Broth sounds like flavor. It is, functionally, salt water. Same solution, friendlier noun. And there's a positive claim on the other side, which is your shortcut. No retained water is a specific USDA claim, meaning the product didn't absorb water during cooling. If a package says that, or says air-chilled, you're in different territory. While we're on the front panel, let's clear out the claims that are doing nothing for you. Hormone-free, or raised without hormones, on chicken is close to meaningless. Federal rules don't permit hormones in poultry production in the first place, so every chicken in that case qualifies. It's advertising a baseline as if it were an achievement, and that's why you'll usually see a tiny disclaimer next to it saying exactly that. Fresh doesn't mean what you think either. On poultry, it's a temperature classification, not a measure of how recently anything happened. And natural, as we just covered, has survived being applied to birds injected with salt water. So the front is mostly mood. The percentage is the fact. Now there's one more thing going on with the modern chicken breast, and it isn't about anything added. It's about the bird itself, and it explains a texture problem you may have noticed in your own kitchen. Over the last 50 years, broiler chickens have been bred to grow dramatically faster and to yield far more breast meat. The growth rate has increased roughly threefold, with birds reaching over 2 kilos in under 40 days, and the breast alone accounting for something like 20% of the carcass weight. That's why the average breast fillet in the store today looks enormous compared to one from decades ago. But muscle that grows that fast doesn't always grow correctly. Researchers have documented a set of muscle conditions in fast-growing broilers with unusually literal names. White striping, where thin white lines run through the fillet parallel to the muscle fibers. Woody breast, where the meat becomes hard, pale, and rubbery. And spaghetti meat, where the muscle fibers separate and unravel into strands. The numbers are striking. In one study of over 9,000 fillets, white striping in some form was found in about 96% of samples, spaghetti meat in about 36%, and severe woody breast in around 12%. Most fillets showed more than one condition at once. Separately, the incidence of woody breast has been reported as climbing from around 5% in 2012 to roughly 29% by 2015. Now, the honest framing, and it matters. These are not infections, and researchers state they are not a public health concern. They're growth-related muscle abnormalities. What they affect is quality, texture, tenderness, and the meat's ability to hold water, which loops back around neatly because meat that holds water poorly is meat that benefits, from the processor's perspective, from being injected with a solution engineered to make it hold water. So if you've cooked a chicken breast that came out weirdly firm or stringy, or that released a startling amount of liquid into the pan and then shrank, you probably weren't imagining it, and it probably wasn't your cooking. Let's put the whole thing together, because the answer to what does chicken breast really mean turns out to be layered. It means chicken plus whatever the chill tank added, plus whatever the injection added, sitting inside a bird bred to grow so fast that its muscle has trouble holding on to liquid in the first place. The added water isn't hidden. It's declared. It's just declared in a percentage, in small type, in language chosen partly for how comfortable it sounds, on a package whose big words are talking about farms and freshness and nature. The ingredient they add before weighing it is water. The reason it matters is that weight is what you pay for, and the part almost nobody realizes is that it can happen twice, once by absorption and once by injection, and both are printed on the package you've been buying for years. Quick grounding, because this channel doesn't do panic. None of this is dangerous. Enhanced chicken is safe to eat. Retained water is safe. The muscle conditions are a quality issue, not a safety one, and researchers say so plainly. Nobody is poisoning you. What's at stake is your money and your sodium. You're paying meat prices for salt water. And if you're someone watching your salt intake, a raw chicken breast carrying 400 milligrams of sodium is a genuinely useful thing to know about, because most people would never think to check. So here's the 10-second test, and it costs nothing. First, before anything else, look for a percentage anywhere on the package, front, back, or wrapped around the side. If you see any number followed by solution, chicken broth, water, salt, and sodium phosphate, or retained water, that's the share of your purchase that isn't meat. No percentage and a no retained water or air-chilled claim is the cleanest signal you can get. Second, check the sodium on the nutrition facts panel. This is the fastest tell there is because raw chicken has nowhere to hide. Untreated chicken lands roughly in the 45 to 70 milligram range per serving. If raw chicken is showing you a couple hundred milligrams or more, it's been injected, whatever the front of the package says. Third, ignore hormone-free, ignore fresh, and treat natural as decoration, because a bird pumped with salt water has been allowed to wear that word. And fourth, if the tray has a pool of liquid in it and the meat looks unusually plump and glossy, you're likely looking at the outcome of everything we just described. None of this means chicken is bad or that your brand is lying to you. It means the package was designed so that the appealing part is the part you read and the expensive part is the part you don't. The picture on the front is the pitch. The percentage in the fine print is the fact. And it was there the whole time. So go look at the chicken in your fridge or your freezer right now and hunt for that percentage. Tell me in the comments what number you find. Or type none if your package is clean. I think a lot of you are about to discover you've been buying salt water at chicken prices for years without ever being lied to once. And if reading a label better than the people who wrote it is your kind of thing, subscribe to Behind the Label. The next package you pick up, you'll turn it over first.